Hey everybody, it's Rydo and we're back to Shadowverse solo story mode. So we had done Bunny and Baron's storyline, and while I kind of like the characters, we still kind of run into several of the same issues of number one, the story just being really, really long, an hour and 50 minutes to go through the story and not even finish it. Uh, every character is just overly adorned with the high fashion anime designs, which is just still over the top. Even if I will admit that they seem like they've toned it down a little bit in these latest expansions. And basically, just nothing happens. There is also a problem, certainly, with the power creep. I don't think that the power creep is a mistake. It's a good idea that there really was only one bad guy that we really fought in Bunny and Baron's story. But then they should just let the power creep happen by itself, and he should have just been the bad guy. So many times in the story, just for the story's purposes alone, you didn't even have to play a card game. You would shoot underlings, and then that means because they didn't have the budget to animate different underlings and didn't even bother to have the underlings have like different hairstyles or anything, you end up shooting the exact same people. And even the underlings aren't unique in that you see flashbacks of a female character that then is used in three different other places as a just stand-in character for a female, or you see flashbacks of a male character, and then that male character is the bartender. This is oddly worse than the Guild Wars storyline, because at the very least in the Guild Wars storyline, if I think back, there was one annoying girl who you ran into who was just that girl. That was, she had a name, she was a character, she had a personality. She wasn't just there to be attacked or just a random person. Uh, Same is true for her mother. Same is true for a man on the street. So there was only like three random civilians in the entire story of the Guild War. Now, in fairness, there were still some underlings that would attack people, but it mostly seemed like those were underlings that had been magically created as clones, or that they were the same underlings who were magically under the control of the eventually revealed bad girl in the Guild Wars story. Here, there seems to be no explanation at all. And if they were going to make that explanation that people were just clones in this universe, that's fine in this new world. But I kind of wanted that needs to be said out loud, which kind of makes an argument that there are several things that should have been said out loud and weren't, and instead we got a whole bunch of Western jargon that is hard to get through. Let's not waste any more time though, and let's hop into Mazer's story. Almost certainly, his story is going to very much parallel Bunny and Baron's, other than except for the fact that he'll be the good guy, and because of that, he will be working for a different Titan, and he'll try to be the good guy and kind of the sheriff character, while still kind of working for a bad guy. Hmm. And see, I don't even know if we really need to watch this chapter, because this very possibly is almost certainly just the same thing. Although,
They have advanced beyond trial.
maybe this is different dialogue.
Obstacles innumerable,
Hmm.
where they spread hope near and far.
It definitely goes to show that
Within the embrace of the great mother.
Bunny and Baron's story was so long that I can't even remember what was said at the beginning of their story, and whether this is repeated or not.
Stage of steel and verdure.
Hmm.
A new story begins to forge roots.
Hmm.
uncertain to take.
I feel like this voiceover actress
Survive
is
whirling sandstorms
underused
and
too.
ceaseless plumes of smoke before tales can be
Or
told upon this
I would also suspect this is not the
day.
same voiceover actress
Tis a
from
flame
previous
of
chapters,
combat,
since it's been like
gunfire
5
and
years or 4+ years.
made upon happenstance,
Hmm.
when a divinity brought life unto the stone of beginnings. The inheritors of this great work, the Titans 3, stand atop civilization. Titan of force, not. Titan of
It's kind of funny that they even bothered to
Schillendrig.
hide the faces of these characters because there's no twist around that at all. We were immediately shown these characters' faces, and we wouldn't recognize them from anything anyways.
The veil is a powder keg, awaiting the inevitable spark of destruction. Though many holdeth fire,
If anything, you would almost assume that this was hiding the faces because they just hadn't animated the faces.
who live to lift their names. Grand ambitions cross paths with discord, cantering through the wasteland. Mayhap it be
It's funny
those who
that
live for justice,
they'd say that Bunny and Ben want to lift their names when they're
to tomorrow.
literally hiding their faces.
Bearing the soul of a man ready to spring into action for others. Perhaps it be those who live in the mist of darkness. The
It
godlessness of
could
the era is
also
the
be,
path of hardship.
it could have been that they could have been animated with masks. That would have saved you
Must be done.
on a lot of lip flap animation
Chance it be those
and
who
let you
live
do a
in the
little,
fog of twilight.
do something a little bit different with the visuals as far as the face of Bunny and Baron.
Wretches that they are. And yet, a guest alights from a dimension unknown.
And again, it still seems like Arissa is the only character who's even going to make it to this universe,
In due course.
which this is the second time where it feels like Arissa
Commands
has
much
been
of you.
sent to a universe by
Explore your
herself,
lives to the whims of destiny.
and really goes to show how she's really just the main character,
How will your
and
tale be
they should
told?
pretty much just eliminate the other characters. Yeah, I think that was pretty much exactly the same. But it is so generic that it applies to every story.
Stop in the name of the law. Whoa, boy, or else.
And see, again, you just have a character
Sorry,
that's...
kid. I'm on official icy business. I ain't got time to poke around with no clod hopping deputy.
He's just got
Mercy.
too much
Always got
going
around.
on. The too big of gloves.
Put your thinking
They
boots on.
never need to have
I've
coats.
heard of this
It's
game.
ridiculous how many things have coats. His gun is
Looking
unique,
a little slow there, Hoss.
which and a
I
little
think
too
that
big.
was all
That's
fast
true
as
with the
hell.
bullets too, on
No
most of the
dads.
characters.
You can do this. Just look for a way to cut him off or... Any other lawman worth his salt would have shot me by now. But I guess that's why they call you Limp Holster Miser. He's testing you. The
See-
sheriff will have your badge if you don't stay professional.
Yeah, it's
I bet the
it's
gal
not a
on the
terrible
saloon can do
design.
that too. Yeah, boo,
It's
boo,
just
Limp Holster.
they still go really crazy.
I'll shove my boots so
They
far
they
up
I
your
suppose have fixed the crazy broad chests,
You'll have spurs
broad
for laces.
shoulders art design. They still are making a lot of the male characters a little bit too tall compared to Arissa, and we'll notice that.
There. Justice served with a smile.
And still
Bet I've done the sheriff proud.
shifting the characters down every time they kneel down, as if that's something interesting.
Proud of yourself, miser?
I didn't mean to piddle, sir.
You saw the culprit dine and dash and followed his footprints. That much is commendable. But how did you lose track of him so soon afterward?
Well,
This guy
there was a fella who was carrying a heavy package.
has way
so
too much.
So you ignored an outlaw on the run to give
It's
him
like-
a hand. Refresh my memory.
It's kind of a crazy hairstyle, too much of a
The
coat.
saloon's roof was plumb falling apart. Took a few folks to reshingle, you know? And there was this old woman who needed help with her groceries. Boy, she was a trembling.
And in spite of everything, you still managed to track down the criminal outside the city limits. Now that I think about it, maybe this was a miraculous apprehension after all. Oh, that wasn't a compliment, Miser.
I guess
Pardon me, Sheriff.
one of the big questions here is
Understand what
Vincent
you got to do now,
as a
don't you?
Titan.
Of course, sir.
Well, enlighten me then.
Well, for starters,
Why is
I'll
he
help the people
sick?
of Revale day in
And
night
why
out.
is he acting as a sheriff?
No, Miser.
Sir?
Incident reports.
Oh, yes, sir.
Vincent seems
That'll
to
be the death of me.
like a lot of
Sheriff
paperwork.
Skin again? That's the third time this week, Limp Holster Miser.
Silence. In any case, I guess you did well enough.
So I
Keep
guess
your eye
Vincent
on straight next
just
time.
has magic.
Yes, Sheriff. Thank you, sir.
At a certain level, that's pretty much what Nerva does always, is it just
Dang,
gives
John,
magic
Vincent can
to
stare down a full-grown copperhead
the
if he wanted
worst
to.
people you could find, or just random people,
Heard you got into it again.
instead of
Done
perhaps
worse
giving
before,
power
and I'll
to
do worse later, I
a
reckon.
character like Miser, who would barely use it and only use it for
Bet you
good.
managed a lot better than most.
At least
You
that's
still
what it
got the
seems like
vermin in the
as
end,
far as
right?
Miser as a character is.
Sure did. But, maybe I shouldn't have made a fuss over a bunch of ant-sized problems on the way.
Ah, don't sweat it. Not many
We've got
folks could
no
pull out what you
background
did.
music playing
Without a
right
gun,
now,
no less.
making it
After
feel
you're done with
very
the reports,
quiet.
wanna grab a drink? I know a place that serves a real mean-iced guilt.
Spurred on? Oh, sounds great.
Apparently, all the drinks in this realm are called
Two
guilts.
blanks. Seems like you might want to put a tad more effort into my reports, Deputy.
I meant 2,000 blanks, sir. I'll get to the reports right away. And I'll use my prettiest handwriting.
Hop to it. I'll be waiting outside.
Here goes. My actions today, while inefficient, were ultimately about the good of the city. Whew. Thinking about all those happy smiles, I might tear up. There we go. All
It's
done.
weird to have a story,
Wrists are howling.
though,
Took you long enough.
where the character is just going to be a
Yup,
good
so
guy.
I was a genius for finishing every report quick as paint drying.
Yeah, I don't think he was none too impressed.
It's also kind of weird to have a
Howdy, Miser.
country western style world
Busy day at the station?
that
Dadgummit,
wants
y'all
so
know
much
I hate that
paperwork.
name, and I'm always busy at the station, thank you very much.
Yoo-hoo, Miser. I can't help but notice a distinct lack of a girlfriend.
And here we
on
have
your
the
arm.
generic
I
male and
guess you
generic
got
female.
grandma.
Yeah, well, she's pushing 300. Stop pulling my leg.
Look, son, you're not getting any younger, so you best start walking belt buckle first, unless you wanted to die alone.
Miser probably don't even polish his buckle.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't know if this is a weird
No, and I keep my buckles twinkling like the stars at
sex
night.
joke or what. I don't know.
Holy crap! Sorry, y'all.
Yeah, I think that was a weird sex joke that maybe makes more sense in Japanese, and
It came from Spur
translating
on.
it to English
What's happened?
is weird.
Oh my.
Not.
Well, hello, Deputy. Don't you look positively frantic?
Was that your doing?
Afraid I have no earthly idea as to what you're insinuating.
That scream from before. Who have you hurt?
Bless your thick-headed heart.
I said, who?
Sweetie pie, I understood your question. What I don't understand, however, is why you feel the need to ask it. If I said, guilty as charged, officer, what would you do? What could you do?
Well, I
aren't by for no law breaking.
So, nothing, I take it.
Now you just wait a minute.
Deputy, the world's unfair. You've got to learn to fear it.
I know more than
So
you give me
here we're
credit
getting
for.
Not shown,
I've got a
and
job
see,
to
you
do
just
here.
see her face, so there was no point in them hiding it, other than they
All the
just
pups and
possibly
sheriff
hadn't
kids
drawn
have
it
said,
yet.
You might be the most interesting I've ever met. I'm sure he
Here you
felt
can
this in
see
you,
a
boy.
almost full
Should we ever
head
meet again,
length
you better
taller
learn not to bark in front of me.
as
How's
far
her
as
now, hun?
Miser compared to Not,
Hey, wait a
and
minute.
Not is supposed to be an intimidating character, so you would assume she was taller in general.
That was not the cursed queen. She's one of the 3 titans that control a veil. Even among them, she'd be the most likely to fling you clear across the desert.
Of course I know her, but is her title reason enough for her to break the law?
Absolutely. This ain't something you just right away with a report.
But
No buts. Grown folk know better than to backtalk a damn titan.
it don't feel right to just sit there and do nothing.
Yeah, they're implying that
I better
Miser
go
is
patrol some, see if anybody else
is
got
supposed to be younger and more naive,
I best come with you. Make sure you don't
which
dive head first into
I
any
guess
more
I
trouble.
appreciate that they're depicting him
Fine,
still
sorry
as
about that.
as
Two
an
more
adult.
meters left before my
If
loader's
they
burnt.
had made Miser as young looking as some of the other kid characters we've seen in the story,
Wandering off on some
that probably
quest
wouldn't
spell
help the
mission.
story much, really.
Oh boy.
This is
I
also
done did it now, huh?
a world where if you were to throw in lot of the other characters, it just doesn't make sense. Like the Dragoncraft character doesn't make a lot of sense. The Havencraft character is fine, but the Necrocraft and Bloodcraft characters really wouldn't make sense in this universe. Or at least they'd have to work really hard to write an explanation as far as how they would make sense in this universe. And so we're this time getting a battle much earlier in the 3rd chapter, which we can fortunately just skip.
Yep, no crime this side of town either.
You know,
I guess hell ought to be gearing up for its first
the
winter.
Swordcraft character could have
Sorry
played a
about
role,
this.
but
I bet you'd rather be having a
they
drink at
didn't
the
use her.
saloon. Didn't mean to rope you into extra patrol.
The funny thing, particularly since this is like chapter 10, and which basically makes it chapter 11 because there was a prologue, there easily could have been a single character killed off and replaced in every chapter, and that could have been the generic legacy, or you could have killed off several characters. It goes a little extreme if they were to try and kill off and replace 7 of the 8 hero classes of the main story, but yeah, I could definitely feel like the main characters could be eliminated. Like,
On it, Chief.
and I'd be really surprised if anybody actually cared about the main characters enough that they'd want them to stay in the main story. This almost certainly gets proven in the fact that they made the kids anime and of Shadowverse, and in that anime there's literally no characters from this story at all. It's a whole new group of kids. It's that play the card game much closer to something like Yu-Gi-Oh.
You seen anybody suspicious around?
Now, we both know a squeaky mouse gets eaten pretty quick in these parts. Why would I risk telling you?
Here we have the scandal.
You and that gussied up fella, didn't I? I even fixed victuals for the private picnic you wanted.
Vittles are food.
Oh, bring that up, why don't you? Fine. He went that away.
So he did a favor for the scoundrel.
We'll call it even for now.
It's ridiculous that
Deputy,
they have
you're
her.
always gonna owe me one. But there's been talk of more wretches about, so you just stay alive to see your debts repaid, okay?
They keep talking about riches, but we haven't seen them yet.
Thanks again.
it's a mistake to animate her with her gun out if she's not going to shoot in almost every scene.
Halt! In the name of
But
the law!
it's way worse that a lot of the other random
Oh, no, we are not
underlings
doing this again.
don't have their guns out, and then they do shoot,
Get into high gear.
which really just makes an argument that they should have animated each character 2 different ways.
Damn you! You come any closer, I'll shoot.
Hey now, friend. There's no reason to make this harder than it has to be.
I need this money, and you're not gonna take it from me.
There's definitely an overarching story
You neither.
of
Don't you live in
poverty
Magic
and
Wonderland?
abuse, like
That was too close for
economic
comfort.
disparity,
Guess
and
you wanna do
people
this the hard
sick and
way.
dying and starving, while the
I may not be the
Titans
most muscular
and the
officer
rich
in
people
West, but I've
don't
got
do
enough
anything
punch
about
to
it.
spare a haymaker for you.
Which inherently, I suppose, all country type, country western type cities run into that exact problem where
You weren't half bad.
where you need to take the next step and install.
Where the hell did you go?
Oh, so he can do the
Near about swallowed my heart
flash
there.
step
Slippery son of a gun.
to.
I ain't got time for this.
But yeah, you kind of need to take small, individually governed cities like this and take the next step and implement taxes. She doesn't even know what a sheriff is.
Damn it, he's still on my
Interesting.
hide.
So you pay for
Come here.
social services and assistance, and
You rotten thug.
because those kinds of support systems don't exist in Western style towns, that's why you have so many scoundrels and highwaymen.
What's he got to do with this?
Don't take another step.
Like,
I'll hurt her. I swear.
people
to
don't
God.
inherently embrace the risk of being shot
Back against the wall,
just to
don't
be bad guys for the fun of it. They do it out of desperation.
he? No one's around, so there's nobody to get hurt. Just focus. Accelerate.
Could you please let go already?
So Miser can move really fast,
I'm sorry. I tried to hold back.
but apparently he can.
Holy hoe cakes! You see him go flying just now? Wait, wasn't he gripping your neck?
He was, but he couldn't hang on when I used the wind against him.
So she used
Who did what now?
her powers against him, but apparently Miser does have some kind of accelerated ability that
Safe and sound.
he feels like he'll probably run around and run into people if there's anyone else around.
I'm going to apprehend him. Is he bad?
Mauser, finally caught up to you. Did you catch him?
Thanks to this young miss here. Only had to chase
Yeah.
him partway through town.
This is another point with Arissa where
Through the whole dang city already.
if there was just like a year jump where Arissa lived in anything other than a forest,
Down the station.
she would learn what seemed to be the average societal norms of any other universe world.
You gotta put on your big boy boots at some point.
On my delicate feet.
It would be funny if
Have fun with
this
Cajun.
was like the
Fine. I'll fill
the
Vince in.
point where
Catch you later,
something like that happened. If Arissa did have to spend like a year
That was a
or
close one.
longer
Better go
in
back
this
and make sure
world
that
with
water
Miser
isn't
and
somebody
they get married and they grow older together and grow up, because you do have Arissa as being kind of childish and naive, and Miser is childish and
There's
naive.
someone called the sheriff. Do you know where I can find them?
The sheriff? Miss, just how far out of Reveille do you live?
Well, I'm from a whole different world.
A whole nother world? Woohoo! First time I ever heard that.
Oh, how do I explain?
Don't worry about it. Sounds like it's beyond my pay grade anyway.
Hmm.
Name's Miser. Miser the deputy. Howdy do.
Nice to meet you. I'm Arisa.
Let me
Yeah, it
guess.
does seem like
Never
they're
been to
gonna
this city before,
spend a
so
decent
you're
amount of
looking for
time
somebody
with
to
each
give you
other.
the lay of the land?
Yes, exactly.
Well, you're in luck. I'm the best dang tour guide in this whole Dust Bowl.
You do have this.
I sure am glad I ran into you.
It kind of feels like
That
Arissa
makes
is
two of us,
gonna
miss.
pick up
Now
the
come on.
accents
We've got
of the
exploring
people
to do.
around here. But it definitely is weird to bring in the archery girl into a world of guns. But I guess that's as close as that we're ever gonna get. It doesn't make a lot of sense for Forcecraft cards to have a bunch of guns. It would make a lot more sense for Swordcraft to have guns. Even Portalcraft might make a little bit more sense to have guns. They just didn't really
So,
think
Arisa, how
things
much do you already know
through
about Reveal?
if they were going to tell this story
Not
of
a lot, to be
a
honest.
card game that can go to any
I see.
universe
Well,
and thus
I
have
reckon we
cards
should
that
start with the
represent
basics.
anything.
Sure, that would be great.
Reveal's a big city split into two
It's
townships.
definitely
West Home and the Golden Hills.
definitely worth mentioning too that since the Japanese
Versus the rich man's
people
district, if
don't
that clears
have
things up. I
a
personally don't like those terms, though.
don't really have guns in Japan,
And
like
both
the
of them
military
their
has
own top
guns and the
dog calling
police
the shots.
have guns, but I don't know if
Dogs
any of
can
them
shoot
really
in this world?
hold on to them
No,
or use them
I mean, we
much.
have people who are like, kings. The poor
So
people ruled over by Not-Not
that
who controls
allows
dwarves.
the
And the
average
rich folk are
Japanese
ruled over
citizen
by
to have
Shilindred, who controls
kind of
prosperity.
a naive fetish for guns without
Neighboring
really
chieftains.
feeling the
Do
actual threat
chieftains fight?
of them. And so
In a
if you
way,
were in
there's
Japan
no
and you
outward
saw someone
conflict. There's
with a
no
gun, you
belief
can
in
almost
check.
certainly assume that it is
His
a
name's Vincent. He
replica
controls the
or model
balance
or
Reveal
BB
tends
gun,
to teeter
and
twixt the
it's
three.
just kids
Fun fact, they're
running
called the
around
Titans,
shooting each other
but
and
they ain't
playing.
known for being hospitable folks, so I'd try to steer clear if I were you.
Whereas
Okay, I'll be careful.
an American telling this story should, at the very
It's
least,
a big tower.
understand the
Catch you
complete
twice on top,
insanity and
it's been around
danger
since
of
before we were
having
forever.
such a breakdown of law and order and general trust between people.
Couldn't help overhearing, Miser. But
So much
you
so that
just said
everyone,
girlfriend? Far as I recall, you've never even had a date, much less going steady with somebody.
like everybody carrying around guns, is not a smart move.
I've been on dates with plenty of women.
Shopping trips with your mama don't count, sweetie. Poor little miser, bless your heart.
Yeah, I'm trying to make a good impression here. Look, now she's laughing at me. I could have been patrolling the streets instead of suffering such disgrace.
Sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. I was just thinking about how nice you are.
He's got a good heart, but the rest of him, yikes.
Best not to get too attached, dear. Bleeding heart like him wouldn't be able to give you the time you deserve.
Will you cut it out already? Go on, get.
So, yeah, there is a weirdness
Come
here
by later. Baked too much pie the other day.
that
Some
if
of
you were to
leftovers.
really have Arissa and Miser stay together for like
never shuts up about you.
a long time,
Miser,
does it
you heard about the racket I Shilindrig
does that really help anything if they get married, if they have children?
He's starting to put his debtors through the ringer. Rumors are getting pretty grim.
It,
for those
it
who can't pay.
might give a bit more of a motivation for her to come back to this world at some point.
Will do, Hoss. Same goes for you. And if you hear anything else, you come straight to me now.
It would be much more of a mature story, though, say if
Dang.
she falls in love with Miser and sleeps with him, and then in the next chapter, when she's gone to another world, she finds out she's pregnant, and then she's traveling around for several chapters as a pregnant
Someone lost
person
this.
who's
Can I give it to you?
who's fighting against Nexus and Nova.
This is a bullet.
Is that what it's called? A girl with red hair dropped it after telling me to ask the law for help.
And she was right to do that. I'll take it off your hands.
Thanks.
Now, what should I show you next?
So this magic bullet has
how about the station?
followed its way to Miser.
Oh, the church would be much better. I could introduce you to Selena.
Selena?
Huh, she's been my best friend since we were kids. You'll love her.
Of course, now they're introducing
Can't wait to meet her.
Selena as a potential love interest for Miser. Like, there is an undertone, certainly, of romance in all these meetings and all these characters.
You're not gonna get another coin out of me.
No, it's not that. We got a visitor from outside Reveal. I brought her to say hi.
Hi there.
I would say is picking up the country
What's
accent.
wrong? Your stomach hurting?
Of all the stupid. Come over here a second.
Ah, don't pull so hard. What gives? I told you I would get you your money back.
Of course you will. But that's not what this is about.
Then what is it? Oh, Sparks didn't fly with that fella I introduced you to? Ow!
It's her, dingus. You don't think she ain't off kilter or whatever?
I don't.
One assumes she kicked him in the
Look at her outfit.
chin.
The way she carries herself.
It probably would be better if they
This is huge.
explain the actions in parentheses.
Never seen a gal dressed like that in all my days.
And so this is supposed to be the church background, and it has
hello?
very little decoration
Exactly. Who
and
carries
no
her?
seating.
Did you bother to ask her why?
Must have slipped my mind.
And if she moves, you can see there's this
Well, I reckon
just
you learned
like
something
star
from Olsen
symbol.
and Swiss cheese. Now listen, I've never been outside Reveal, but I know there ain't many folk who still use basic contraptions.
Oh, I see what you're saying. We're having some kind of shared fever dream, ain't we?
Don't be an idiot. I just want you to recognize how peculiar she is.
So she's trying to take care of him,
I think she's a good person.
almost like a big sister.
You'd probably think Schillendrick was a saint, assuming you ever met him. In any case,
Hey, who's this weird lady?
And then here we've got some very short and very young looking kids.
Hi kids. I'm
And the kids get very generic standard
Give 'em time to mess up at
costumes, which
I swear you're thick as rock.
certainly then
Reveal.
makes it weird that every other character has pretty out there, wild,
You know that?
anime style high fashion clothing. It's like,
wow. Do that again, lady.
so you would assume that either these characters should have some weird
You own the wheel?
high fashion.
Something like that.
Uh,
Watch close.
they should either be in some kind of high fashion thing, like the Shadowcraft character is dressed,
Put it down in there. We're trying
or
to have a
just
serious
more
talk.
generic people should be
Sorry.
in generic clothing. And that art style is completely off.
Like an old
Like,
married couple.
so clearly the animators either didn't want to draw the kids or didn't care enough to put any effort into it.
Boy, care if Arisa and I join you?
Do whatever you want.
Sorry for the wait.
And I can't inherently hate the fact that kids show up in the stories. So often you have stories where there are just like no children exist at all.
Born riled up. These two could power a whole train yard if we could harness their energy.
You still once again have an issue where you have like a full head height of being taller, and then
Lunch is
these
ready.
kids
Come and
being
get it while it's hot.
2 or 3 head heights shorter than your average character.
All right, Arisa. Grub time.
Are you sure it's fine?
Of course. Selena's a great cook. You're gonna love her food.
But obviously they wanted to show Selena as a kind, caring person who's taking care of, I assume, orphans. It would make a lot of sense to have Orisa become pregnant. They wouldn't go down that route, but being a forest-like creature, being about being one with nature and life and such, it would make a lot of sense.
It was really good.
Right? She's the best cook in all of Revale.
And you could certainly have, like, the vampire character, Urias, then have to address this different challenge, and you could write that character a little bit differently and have him grow. You could certainly, through one character being pregnant and needing to be cared for by the 7 other characters, have almost all the characters grow closer and grow and have character development, and that might establish a whole family feeling between all of them.
Maybe we've seen them. What are their names?
Erica, Isabel, Rowan,
Isabel would have great character.
Eris, Yuan,
Oh.
and Luna too. Do
Like-
any of those sound familiar?
Afraid not. Selena, you know any of them?
And certainly, if something happened to any of the characters, pregnancy or otherwise, if a character dies or a character gives birth, those are the two extremes, certainly. Then that could be some character development that follows the main group between worlds instead of effectively just restarting the story with every new chapter or every couple of chapters.
But she's in trouble.
It's okay. Thanks for your concern, but I'll be fine.
Not
with it.
paying much attention to this, obviously,
Sorry, Arisa.
since I'm thinking of better thoughts, or thoughts I'm more in love with.
I've been looking all over for you.
What's the matter?
It's the outlaws you bagged from this morning and afternoon. They coughed up some pretty dirty news that you ought to hear. Need you back at the station.
You got it. Sorry, y'all. Duty calls.
Wait, what do you want me to do with?
You'll figure it out. Later now.
So Miser leaves the scene, which we're following Miser's story here. So
Could I have seconds?
It's eerie how much you remind me of Miser. You know that?
So that's like the last we'll see of Arisa's story, which in a funny way means we're never really going to be able to just follow Arisa's story
To be
alone.
honest, Sheriff, I had help.
And
There
she's
was
just
this
going to be
lady named Arisa who took
a
down the varmint like
backstory character.
You know, you should learn to take praise from your superiors, Deputy. Preferably without sound effects.
So, what's this about the outlaws?
They've got connections to Icy. Poor fools borrowed money from them.
Nothing more dangerous in this world than a deal with the devil. You think they knew what they signed up for?
Oh, now they found out soon enough. Sure as the white in my hair. That's why the pair went on their separate little
There's a
differing benches.
weird
What do you make of it? Some kind of
argument here
Well,
that
seems to be
Vincent
like Icy
should be
wants
the
to
Titan
raise
who
some mistake.
wins and the other two should be defeated.
Just up to a rate you
So
wouldn't believe.
they're going to have to
Really? Makes
put
you
some
wonder,
kind
don't
of
Sure does.
twist in here where Vincent turns out to be a bad guy.
For a man
Also,
in his position, dead as a geese that lay golden eggs. Start strangling them, and you'll soon risk your supply.
Well, in any case, rumors I've heard on the street corroborate Icy's actions. Just wish we had an explanation for his motives.
Agreed. Best investigate.
of course, if you also defeat all 3 of these Titans, then you have to go like rah, we've liberated Revelia, and now they have to invent democracy or some other form of governance to replace the
all due respect,
effect
Sheriff,
of monarchy
I'm
that's
man.
happening here.
I know you don't have much
Or
faith in me, but I promise.
fiefdoms. I guess fiefdoms might be a better word than
If any of the
monarchies.
deputies could take on a Titan and come out on top, it'd be you. But this'll be different than chasing petty crooks down the street. There'll come a time when you have to aim your gun and open fire. Understand? Does that still scare you?
Well,
You'll find control over yourself. So promise me, when the time comes, you'll also find the strength to pull that trigger.
yes, sir. Thank
This
you for the
kind of makes
opportunity.
Miser
Do me proud.
the second in command for a Titan,
Let's make your orders official.
which seems weird.
Investigate Icy's henchmen. Keep track of where they go and what they do.
And see, this
There's
definitely
no
feels like this
forgotten
would be the
games.
beginning of the story, not the
You'll
5th
operate
chapter in the
shadows
story.
without any support. Is that clear?
Sir, yes, sir.
Be vigilant. Don't do anything stupid. And by the gods, keep that heart from bleeding.
And I
too
guess they
much.
do believe in some gods.
you, sir.
Of course, we don't
Won't
know
let you
who.
down.
They never really get into any of that, and that's fine. But it does
Most folks
certainly
forgive themselves for anybody
come-
who finishes
that
saying the
does
word Titan, but you still owe
come
me
up
volunteer.
in the fact that the Havencraft characters always seem to be some kind of religious order.
Got a good head on his shoulders, too.
Gotta wonder if he recognizes his own potential. But, Sheriff, you think you'll really be able to draw his gun?
Without hesitation.
I know I'm a fool for worrying, but it's hard to stop.
This
He'll
definitely
turn out
feels like
just
this
fine.
should have been the first story.
He'll overcome
That
the
way you
demons.
could
It's future
establish
I'm worried about.
Bunny and Baron as kind of bad guys, and then have the twist be to see the story from their perspective, since they are kind of bad guys, but not that bad of bad guys. It would have made a lot more sense to go through this story and see Bunny and Baron shooting people and see it from his perspective, and think that Bunny and Baron are the actual villains of the story. Because now if we see that, well, we've already done Bunny and Baron's story, so we already have that perspective.
When
And
did justice grab
the
my heart?
general idea
Even
certainly
though I
is that
pretend
you're
to be
supposed to
alone,
gain more
or maybe it was just
perspective
a chat the
with
Fs
each
about the wicked
character's
ways of the world.
stories, but
You know what?
often it's
That
so
was that time I saw
unconnected
Selena
from
crying all
the
lonesome about
overall arcing story.
Seeing the tears stream down her cheeks broke my heart. I had to make Revale better.
They
I had to
definitely
do
feel
something
like
for the
they are
people I loved.
writing
Yep. From that point on,
from a
I
template,
knew I'd be a
and
bona
they're
fide
sticking to that
deputy.
template far too
Cheer
often.
up, Selena.
We
I'll
don't
take
need
care of you,
flashbacks
come hell or high
always.
water.
Um,
Really?
they're
Yes,
very
I'm gonna
tropey,
be a
and
lone
they're
man
not
and
trying
protect
different
darn near
things. They're
everybody.
not trying to follow a
Be
natural
better here.
path of a natural flow of
Could you imagine if
storytelling.
she actually remembers that? I'm embarrassed just thinking about it. Anyway, the
What's
rest
funny
of my
there is
road
in
to
that
deputyhood
flashback,
was none too interesting.
Miser's voice did
And
not
after I
sound
came of age,
young,
I applied
but
at the sheriff's office
Selena's
and passed the
did.
trial with, let's say, sinking colors. Oh, but I was a great shot. Everyone told me I was a lucky dog, that my dreams had come true, even if Revale is known more for granting nightmares. I really did feel blessed in those days. Good afternoon, Sheriff. My name's Miser, and I'll be joining the force from today.
Ah, the new recruit. Heard you shot nothing but bullseyes during your trial, son.
And his
Yes,
lips
sir.
aren't
On account of
moving.
The magic I used to learn. I'm nothing special, though.
Nothing special, huh?
Seems weird that
No,
some
sir.
characters have their lips move and
Deputy
some
Miser,
characters
you shot
don't.
10 bullseyes simultaneously. Nothing special indeed.
Huh?
It's pure genius. Not many have magical chops like that.
Huh?
It-
I thought you were gonna clean my goose. The sheriff was referring to two of my tricks, acceleration and ignition. Turns out he knew more about my spellcastery than I did.
It's weird to have guns that are really...
spice to your shots, augmenting your bullets with arcane heat. Good for blowing the tarnation out of whatever you're aiming at. But acceleration, now that's the real deal. Used on a gun,
No.
it'll increase the velocity of your bullets. But on a body, well, you become like wind itself.
There is a key phrase
with perfect accuracy to boot.
called acceleration on the card games, but I don't think there's a phrase called ignition.
Remembers everything their boss ever told him. Not me. The next couple of months of policing went about how you'd expect.
I don't know why you would need a gun, or why magic would have
Catching
been
bandits,
studied and developed that would be so
helping people find their way,
effective when combined with guns.
making a ruckus with my fellow officers.
You would think that the magic alone would be
And
enough.
the ugly of this city. Justice served with a smile. Another blissful day in Reveille.
Of course, the problem with like a country
Still do.
style city like this is that
Long before I
you're
learned I
gonna
was made
pretty
too
much
big
end up
for
arresting
ruckus.
everybody.
The lesson here, folks, just because you love something with all your might, that don't guarantee it'll love you back. Even when you need it to.
Once again, we have like no background, so they're just showing
Like I would.
static
I
images.
don't have a little insurance policy.
You're darn tootin', but you'll get a fair trial and a clean sale. You've got my word. Come on
They're
now,
not gonna
be
mention that
reasonable.
in most westerns like this, they would hang a lot of
She
people.
struggled and broke free, thinking she could get away. I wish she had.
Oh no, you don't.
And there we have the same scoundrel we've seen several
He started to
times,
sprint after,
and
eyes squinting
same
against the
female
blinding
model.
sunlight. His breath came out in blasts, like those of an angry bull. Was his hostage in the wrong? Maybe she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But she was a kind woman, had 2 kids, and was just doing her best to raise them. How about the outlaw then?
So that's the mother of the 2 kids that Selena's taking care of, almost certainly.
Who knows what could have happened had I not made him desperate? Only one at fault here was me. I had spectacular talents, and that made me cocky, excitable, dangerous.
That's some interesting
Accelerate.
self-blaming.
The wind was my shepherd, and I had his blade locked in my sight before he even knew I'd drawn my gun. Or so I thought.
Well, if you can move fast, then why not just run and knock the guy over?
She was still running when the crack of my bullet blasted through the air. Startled, she
This is
jumped
another one
straight into my line of fire.
of these cases where one bullet seems to have killed somebody, when seemingly a lot of characters don't.
Curse her
A lot
little
of
pride. Nah, that's
a lot
not
of
how I
people
see it.
don't seem to actually
I was the
die
element
when
that
even
caused this
being
woman's
shot
death,
2 or 3
not the silent
times.
push of some secret hand. It was my bullet that went through her heart. You can love this world, but it won't love you back. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. Yes, you do. You shot her dead.
So we get our tragic backstory.
Now, son, don't suffer your heart anymore. I heard the details, and we got the footpad in the end.
Yes, sir.
Buck up now, yeah? You did the best you could.
Yes, sir.
Want to go shoot some targets? Take your mind off it?
I'm not sure if my mind will ever come off it. Which has me thinking, Sheriff, maybe I'm not cut out for law work no more. Every time I reach for my gun, I just start quaking, like one of them fainting sheep. At this rate, I just ruin the reputation of the law. I'll leave my gun and bag.
That's an odd reference to feigning sheep,
Hush now, miser. You're one of
because
us.
the feigning sheep are
We don't
not
abandon our home. Not this department, not the citizens.
not
we love
anywhere
so
in a
much,
country
not this
type
whole
world.
damn city.
Although I guess in this universe there
Rebel
may
means
be
you can
feigning
leave,
sheep.
come hell or high water.
bless the folk around me. I had no shortage of drinking buddies or shoulders to cry on. The department gave me the strength to keep on keeping on. The citizens, too. They'd stop and give me a hug whenever I was on patrol. They'd tell me things like, "Love your little heart. It weren't your fault."
So nobody even blamed.
Children,
I'll look after him. Not like you could, anyway.
thank the skies above for childhood friends. I may have had magic coming out of my ears. They didn't make one iota of difference. There was truly nothing special about me. Nothing at all. What I did have, and I had it in abundance, was appreciation for the fine folk of Revale. Shame that what I
The
also
weird
had
thing here
in abundance no less,
is it feels like
equal amount of guilt.
this story could just easily
Seeing
happen
don't
where
put much stock in a higher power.
Miser just
These
replaces
days, I'm afraid
Vincent,
I have to believe
Bunny
that
and
the world
Baron
knows
just
us.
replace
I
Not
suppose
Not
there's nobody out there who can
or
absolve me of my actions.
Icy.
That means
Either
they'll
one
ruin
of
me
could be the
forevermore.
case. And nothing really would have changed so much. Like, you can't really trust that any of these main characters would not just end up becoming evil and corrupted fairly quickly if they were the new people in charge. Let's see, this goes on for 11 chapters. And so we have to just keep on persevering, but it's been 51 minutes and
Let's see.
it's
How do I
just
get this
incredibly slow. And I don't even
I'll get
feel
started on
like
a gander.
there's a way that
Sons of guns
anybody else would have had a different experience. In this chapter in particular, I know for a fact that chapter 1 to chapter 11 were all released at the same time.
Sorry, Miser.
And
Saloon's
the
closed
only
now.
slight delay was the different characters' stories.
It came from Spurred
So
What's happened?
that
Oh my.
pretty much shows you that nobody's going to have been able to do just one chapter and then take a day break and then do another chapter. You certainly could have done that if you chose, but it wouldn't really fix anything.
Say that?
The best case scenario is doing exactly what I'm doing, which is just going
No one's come by.
all the way
Save
through
much
the
of
entire
old pains in
story,
my ass.
which just means sitting for an hour and a half to 2 hours and listening to
Not
them
your
talk.
fault. You can pray for the wind to stop, but that won't keep the sandstorms from coming. Well, what can I do you for? Want a drink?
I kind of wonder if they shouldn't just throw in a button at some point that says just jump me into a regular game, and
Not as bad as you'd expect.
they make you unlock
You keep
each
it
chapter
between us.
between 2 or 3 games of multiplayer.
Expensive hobby.
What kind of titan has time for a hobby?
All I know is he's been filling his coffers with ingots like a banker gone berserk.
Yep,
You ask
he's
me,
gotten into playing
something real
collectible card
fishy
games and free-to-play games. That's
yeah.
why he needs the money.
Got any other tidbits for me?
Fresh out for Icy himself. But Bunny
It
and
certainly
Baron
would break the
on
flow
other
of
hand.
playing online, certainly if they just
Got a
threw
new pair of
some
bandits?
story in
Rumor
front of you
has
and
it
said
they
you
go
have to
around without
actually
faces.
listen to this,
Yep.
but the
They
skip
ain't
button could then
grandma's
let you
outlaws,
skip
that's for
that.
sure. But they seem to target Icy strains and Icy
I
strains
don't think
alone.
people would like that
Some kind of
either.
foolhardy thievery that gets
That-
people to talking.
It definitely feels like
Now
this
there's a
single player
definition of
story
fire
mode here
burner,
just does not make sense to
They've got
exist
their
at all.
reasons, sure as smoke is thick. Maybe they know something you lawmen don't.
At the very least,
Not sure you could
they
get a
should
couple of varmints to
tie
help
it
though.
better into each new expansion.
Yeah, I'd rather kiss a bull, I reckon. You know why folks grew to love him so much?
Oh, that's easy. Anybody who's willing to fry Icy's taters gets a free pass around here. Outlaw or not.
Good grief. This city is done for, you know that?
Anyway, that's about all I know. Probably won't find out too much more from anybody else around here.
All right, well, thanks for the help anyhow.
Sure enough. Now, gulp this down and get back out there.
Thanks. Maybe I should wet my whistle.
Weird that they
This
had the
town
special
makes me
sound
thirsty
effect
after all.
for serving a drink. They'll only get to use
Turns out I
once or
didn't get that
twice.
much information from the barkeep, and it sounds like I won't get that much more sticking around here. Put your detective boots on, Miser. Where do you find clues? Where should you look next?
The only thing I guess I could assume is that maybe a bunch of people and a bunch of story might take place in the richer part of the town.
I suppose so, but if this is some kind of backwater way to get me into a date...
You idiot. I've got 1,000 handsome suitors waiting to make me their bride. Now stop your fooling and listen, deputy. Over yonder down the alley, I saw some hoodlums and some of Icy's hands acting all shifty-like. That strike you as odd as it does me? I would have checked things out myself, but I'm too pretty to die.
It does sound awful peculiar.
Don't it? I wish I could say it was just my imagination.
Better safe than
See
sorry.
this? I
I'll
just
check
don't
it
have
out.
anything to say here. I'm just
I hope
listening
you
to the
like
story,
Keep your wits
as
about you now.
slow as it is.
I always do.
It'd be nice if there was just like a mini game.
This the
Honestly, if I
place?
was just playing like tic-tac-toe
Huh?
right now, even.
There you have it. Not sure if it's Bunny and Baron, but I heard a dirty thieving duo set up shop in that there shack.
That's good enough for me. Pleasure doing business with you.
Here's your payment.
And so I guess these are supposed to be train conductors or like train security and not actual sheriffs.
Majesty decides to coffin me.
This proves Schillendrick is after Bunny and Baron. For sure. I'm not sure what they have to do with him strong-arming his debtors. Info's info and, well, beggars can't be choosers. Nevertheless, this whole situation keeps getting dirtier.
Once
and
again, his
dirtier.
lips are not moving.
Can't afford to dwell. Not when there's more clues that need a finding. Howdy there, friends. What are upstanding citizens like yourselves doing in a place like this?
One of Vincent's runts.
Ouch. We prefer deputies. Miser's the name.
Oh, a bona fide lawman. Well, what can we do you for, miser?
Oh, nothing in particular. Just hoping you might repeat what you said before, but a little louder, so the law could hear.
Law ain't got nothing to do with this, boy.
Really now?
A lot of these characters' voices don't
That
really
strikes me
match
as
their
funny. Seems
anime
like something a pair
faces.
of outlaws might suggest.
We serve Lord Schillendrick. You looking to make an enemy out of the Titan of Prosperity?
I meant no disrespect, friend. After all, you're not the only one standing in the shadow of a Titan.
There is also certainly a
Unless you're
underlying
looking to make an
story
enemy out of the
here
Titan of Order.
where there is kind of a worship of
Oh, shucks.
capitalism, a worship of economy
Let's just forget all
for
this
one
nonsense
Titan,
and
a
start
worship
all
of
over again.
force and power for one Titan, and a worship
Funny enough,
of
that's
law and
exactly what I
order
wanted to ask
and
y'all.
rules
But I know
for
I've lost
the
chase.
third Titan.
Besides, flapping our gums don't seem like it's gonna
Boy.
amount to much.
And certainly many
Desperate times,
people in
desperate
many
measures.
societies put way too much
Only
faith
one way
in
out of
in
this
those
conundrum.
concepts and
Take me to meet
end up
Schillendrick. Rather talk to the lion than a bunch of
disenfranchised
cunts
because of
anyhow.
it and not and disillusioned often too,
Something wrong, Sheriff?
because almost certainly we're going to find out that Vincent
Hairs on the back of my
is
neck
breaking
stood up as
the
a-
law in some way, bending the law to his own
Well,
needs.
rest easy. He's got a way of wriggling out of the toughest situations.
Not all
The
enemies are happy, deputy.
Most obvious
Especially when the main character insists
would be that
twisting
he
the story
secretly
himself in every which way.
caused Miser to
No
shoot
offense, Sheriff, but
the
you
woman.
always make mountains out of molehills.
I suppose I do. Suppose I have to.
Once again, it's just so incredibly slow. 11 chapters to build up to what is going to be an obvious ending, in that Miser is going to
of the pest variety.
promise to strike out against this guy.
I'm Miser, deputy of the law. A few of your hands was out in the streets acting real shifty, so I thought I'd come ask you about their actions directly. If you don't mind this intrusion, sir.
My apologies, sir. We couldn't keep him contained.
What do I pay y'all for? Here, taste your own insolence.
You fiend!
Fiend? You couldn't possibly be referring to me.
So he just murders his own men in front of him.
Now, deputy, I am a distinctive creature, altogether superior to you lowly miscreants. It is only by my grace do y'all subsist in this city. You understand the concept of property, don't you?
Icy definitely plays the role as a bad guy.
To play with my toys however I see fit.
You're wrong about that. People've got a right to live.
Uneducated rodent. I should eviscerate you where you stand. Well, aren't you a unique piggy? Not even gonna squeal?
Too busy shaking in my boots.
Then you know where we stand. You are livestock, and I am your shepherd. Yet you bound into my humble abode like a sounder, intent on executing their swineherd.
This would be funny if Miser accidentally did shoot him and kill him.
It's just what you're doing to Reveal. It don't sit right with me. And I apologize for calling you a fiend. I lost my sense of decorum. Please don't tell Sheriff Vincent about this.
Vincent must find it heartening to have you under his finger. My own help is, well, let's just say, less than helpful. All right, out with it. What are you here for?
Feels like we might get a revelation here. Way too much detail in the background art.
That's a lie. Say what you mean. I'm not as forgiving as that lamb, Vincent.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd have these backgrounds drawn, other than the assumption that you might use them as backgrounds for the card game, and even in that instance, it doesn't make sense because that's just too much detail for the card game also. Just feels like they hire artists or have an artist who's really good at backgrounds and possibly not as good or not as focused on drawing different character models.
Tell me, boy, did Vincent put you up to this?
No, sir.
Not in his nature, I suppose. Do you understand the situation you've put yourself in? You stand before our Schillendrig. I could lop the head off your neck before you knew it was gone. And as for this hobby you speak of, if I were amusing myself in an unsavory sort of way, it would be a simple matter of inconvenience to rid myself of you.
I almost think he's just getting the money to try and keep himself alive.
My hired guns could do it, make it look like an accident, leaving Vincent to question where his favorite dog had run off to. You see now, deputy? It's like
too much talk.
To dance with the devil while having two left feet.
Too much talk.
Do you now?
I get that you really don't want folks finding out what you're doing. I mean, you're desperate enough to kill me. But it'd be a shame if I ended up dead when all I came for was a tiny smidgen of information. Don't think Vincent would take too kindly to hearing that news. In fact, he might welcome the chance for vengeance.
I wonder if there would be a way to compress these 11 chapters.
You've got everybody and their mama out searching for our favorite bandit pair.
Yeah. Like, could you compress the important lines of dialogue here into 1 or 2, maybe 3 games, and then just every turn you have a character say these lines of dialogue? Like, you could easily just zoom the camera into the heads, then you don't have to animate any of that crazy high fashion, really, and you just basically have a bust of Miser on one side and then Vincent on the other side, and then you're playing Shadowverse as a card game in the middle. And then just like every card you play triggers more conversation, or the conversation just happens as you play, and then it just goes really quiet when you've heard the whole story by the time you win.
What was your name again, boy?
Friends call me Miser.
Miser.
Like, what you could do is, instead of having it be a fight where they have a set amount of health, you could just play the game and do as much damage as possible until the story is done, and then you get like a
that's all you need to know.
They could give you some small bonus for the maximum amount of damage you do. They'd even give you a reason to play those special games. Anyways.
Sorry to imply anything untoward.
Or it could just be a personal high score. Or it just says, oh, in this turn of events, you heard the whole story and you did 100 points of damage or more.
1 minute, son. Tell me, do you have a price? Seems your personality won't split so easily to money. That intrigues me.
Splitting personalities? Your hobbies are weirder than I thought.
Think what you wish.
Well then, till next we meet.
Sir, get somebody, anybody really, to trail that man. If he gets up to anything that would present an inconvenience, ensure that he is stopped. Of course, sir.
It's weird that he just makes a sound and someone comes through the door to assist him. That pretty much implies that there's just always somebody listening at the door. And for someone who's coughing all the time, clearing your throat is definitely not the right solution for calling an underling. Alright, 3 more chapters. This would have been either our second or third battle. I think third. We're just kind of going nowhere fast. An hour and 10 minutes into it for what could have easily been 30 minutes of story. Yeah, a lot of this really is just needs editing. It needs to be sped up. This game cannot and is not just a visual novel on its own. It is a collectible card game. It's ridiculous to have this story happen and that not be such a focus. That took forever to download.
I'm alive! First not, now I shillendrig. People tell you the Titans are messed up, but I didn't know they were downright hellish. Oh, my stomach feels like it's turning inside out. Spit on my boot and call me Sally. I could use a vacation.
That's a weird phrase.
Maybe I'll head over to Selena's. Try to get some R&R before I make any more dumb decisions.
Ah, well, if it ain't Miser.
Hey, Deputy. On patrol?
That's right. Yourself?
Nah, I'm taking the rest of the evening off. Just had a run-in with our Schillendrig.
You had a what?
Please don't yell. I'm already on edge.
Of all the reckless bull you could pull, having tea with a Titan has got to be near the top of the list.
Not number one, but it weren't a total wash.
This is a great point where
you're
you're literally just repeating what we just saw to an unimportant characters.
I'll work on finding evidence next. You'll see.
Good grief, at least tell the sheriff first. He'll be beside himself after he hears this.
Yeah, imagine he'll have my hide.
Oh, of course he will. This Titan versus Titan business. God's above, Miser.
Please, we need to get on the train. There's good doctors on
And see, this is where we are merging the story.
So long as you don't have a ticket, I can't let you board.
It's funny, if Miser was in this story, then why is it Bunny and Baron that end up giving the money to these people?
Oh, you hate to see it. No matter how hard we law folk work, Revell just won't change, will it? The wicked stay wicked and the poor stay poor. But I guess better wicked than wretched. You heard of them monsters, what crawled out of the woodwork recently?
They keep mentioning the Wretched, and we haven't seen any of them at all.
I've got to do something.
Here you have far too many people on the screen at the same time for no good reason.
Somebody's got to stand up.
I understand how you feel, but there's a difference between bravery and stupidity.
And the thing that in the real world turned these frontier towns, that's what they're called, frontier towns, to make them more modernized was the fact that there was just public transit in the railway system. Once the railways could bring in modern conveniences, there was much more of a reason for the cities to have more industries other than just gold rushes, which is mostly what it was just around.
Pardon my manners, Abbess. Didn't mean to ignore you.
Wow, that is an old looking lady. Just complete out of place. And see, even this art style is way more toned down than most of the outfits, but still probably not toned down enough for a abbess.
But something seems off about your grin today. What's got you down?
Well,
I don't see a reason why you would have drawn this character instead of have the kid characters simply tell him that Selena's not here.
By the gods. And it's the gods who will protect us.
I know.
Or just have Selena here.
Real cute, Miser. It's not about accepting their will. It's about using yours to accept your place within their garden. I pray you never lose sight of that.
I thank you, sincerely. Guess I'll go try to find Selena now. Catch you later, Abbess.
Miser.
Notice that they say
maybe you should.
The Abbess because it's a title, not a name.
Never you mind. Don't worry your heart over it.
If you say so. Bye now.
Yeah, I wonder if they're trying to, if she was gonna tell Miser that he should either leave her alone or date her and marry her. It's not uncommon for religious organizations to push their members to get together and have more children so they can have more members. They usually do it very subtly and with a lot of rules and regulations, as it were, then it has to be done within marriage and at an appropriate age. But there is definitely that point. Interesting. So we finally see a wretch, and it's saying miser. Interesting. Which the wretches definitely do look just like the shades.
How does it know my name?
Which it would definitely make a lot more sense if instead of seeing a bunch of carbon copies of the humans, we had seen more wretches. That would make more sense to be carbon copies. It would be funny if this is Selena. So he just punches it.
Dang, my knuckles are howling.
The wretch could also be the woman who he shot. Or just maybe anybody who was arrested and then died later.
I could smell its breath on that one. At least I've got room to hightail it now. What if it just goes after somebody else?
You'll find control over yourself. So promise me, when the time comes, you'll also find the strength to pull that trigger.
I suppose this may be the case where Vincent is making the wretches. That would make sense.
So is it curtains for me then? This is not how I wanted to go.
Because if it was Isildred, then we would have seen more wretches, and if it was not, that would make more sense.
Not like you to accept a dance partner.
Selena, thank my lucky britches for you.
Maybe you should thank me instead of your pants, you dumb gun. You could have died.
Way too much jargon still, but I'm kind of getting into it. It's almost like the dialogue is just this long running gag by the writers to say how much ridiculous Western jargon can we put into the story.
It's called common sense, doof.
Well, that's the first time I ever saw one. What in Reveal's name do you think they are?
And I suppose it is worth mentioning that this chapter is much more relatable than the anthropomorphic animals and robots of the previous chapters.
All I've heard is he's been pouring his fundage into some kind of ritual.
A ritual, you say?
Probably trying to develop some newfangled magic rite.
Slap my body.
Magic rite is a key phrase that's been around for a long time.
Whoa! Ain't a man's confession supposed to be between him and his parish?
I was joking, you Dorcas. How I got the information is a trade secret. Which means if you want to hear the secret, you gotta make a trade.
Dang! No friends and family discount? I guess it'll have to wait till payday.
You look beat. Want to skedaddle back to the church?
Actually, I was just there. Had a chat with the abbess. I'm glad to see she's still perky.
Is everything okay?
This would be funny if it turns out the abbess is dead.
You saved my bacon so many times over the
And
years.
has been for a while.
Be more hog than deputy by now.
Anyway, catch you later, Oinky.
Hey, watch the name call it. She sure has a mouth on her. Ah, whipsicles. I gotta report back to Vincent, don't I?
Far too much jargon.
I hope he don't get too awful pissed when I tell him I went directly into Icy's lair. It'll have steam blowing out his ears.
Far too much jargon.
Oh, but what if he commends me for my bravery? That's the spirit, miser. Hope for the best, and ye shall receive.
Definitely feels like there could have been a better story if he had been going down more of a romantic story with Selena than just investigative stories. All of these chapters and stories really do turn into these terribly written mysteries investigative stories that there definitely could have been more variety there. Seems like this is probably our 4th battle, and it's got to be against somebody fairly strong. So I don't know who that's really going to be.
What's the matter?
Icy's goons. They started some kind of trouble again.
In broad daylight?
Yes, sir. I got away because there was this real quick, blurry fella protecting the people. But if you don't do something fast, he could get killed.
Cool it, Miser. You think you can take on our Schillendrig's establishment alone?
So from that scene, he apparently went in the alley, fought a wretch,
But there's a difference between bravery and stupidity.
and now he's coming back to that scene.
To hell with reports. Vincent can wait an extra hour. Just point me in the right direction, ma'am. I'll save the day.
Go down that street.
Feels weird. It's like the whole scene went on for hours.
Home safe now. Get the others home as well. Found him.
Chase him down, but watch yourself. He should be out of steam soon enough. We'll get him now.
Which, in all fairness, those chapters, did go on forever in Bunny and Baron's story.
Oh, Blurry was right. It's like looking through smoke. Is he covering himself with magic? Boy, I miss the simple days when robbers would rob and coppers would cop. Now it's nothing but super secret plot this, magical shadow man that. I am definitely in over my head. Maybe over my hat. Damn it, I'm a deputy, ain't I? I won't stand by while a citizen is killed right in front of my eyes.
Yeah, there's definitely a problem here in that I don't have a lot to complain about this story, but I certainly don't like the fact that there's probably minimum of 3 more hours with the 2 other characters of story. That's going to be very much the same.
Everybody around here's lost their marbles.
So, yeah, I don't know if there's any great way to fix that other than to just edit.
After all this is finished, all y'all are gonna help me write up your crime reports. Hear me? Actually, maybe criminals shouldn't be involved with no official reporting. What kind of a lawman would I be if I allowed that?
What a whack job! Shoot him already!
There is definitely a factor.
Accelerate.
So he just pulls his gun and uses accelerate. He doesn't even really do anything crazy. Like, you would have thought that he would have pulled it.
I'm just shooting your bullets out of the air.
Ever see anybody like
I don't know. I don't know what you do there. There are definitely people that try to write and they can't write with any detail. Like they're gonna do the minimum 3 sentences per paragraph, 8 words per sentence, and they're not gonna go any further. And typically that's not the way to write. You want to just overwrite by far and then edit down. And so I will applaud the writers of this game for overwriting. The problem is they just have completely dropped the ball as far as editing back down and getting rid of the unimportant stuff. Particularly also, you're in a different case with video game writing versus story writing that would be in a novel or a short story. Because there's that thought of a picture is worth 1,000 words. We're looking at pictures here, and then they're also giving us 1,000 words, which gives you too many words at that point. now we're back to seeing carbon copies of the same characters, and there's just like no reason why that needed to be that way. You could have broken that one group of character models into two groups of two.
Have mercy. My stomach feels like it's gonna flip inside out.
And then it also runs.
People making me use my gun.
This runs the question: did he just shoot and murder all of those people?
I haven't come here to kill you.
Or did he incapacitate him?
At a critical juncture. I wouldn't deign to commemorate such an occasion with your death.
Nice to see you too, Shillendrig.
That was some peculiar spell work, wasn't it? Never seen anyone combine acceleration and ignition. Your acceleration was particularly charming.
This is gonna be funny when he tells him he has to help him.
Accelerating your own body would spell doom, but you seem to control it just fine. Well, don't leave me standing here like a lump on a log. Go ahead, prove me right.
I won't pick a fight with no Titan.
You are consistent if nothing else. But the time for niceties has passed, Deputy.
This kind of feels like a story needs to probably end with Miser being injured or killed.
Perhaps I have been too focused on my own amusements. But I won't tolerate this insolence. Not from no bandits who call themselves Bunny and Baron, even if they are Not-Not's pets. Even if they can't be bought.
This is just really slow.
War is brewing betwixt the Titans.
And it just,
and the Veil will pay the price.
Once again, is gonna end with the beginning of a war.
Mercenaries don't come cheap. You will therefore allow me to reclaim what's mine. Let's see. 62 bullets. Shots my hands wasted on you. That comes to 4,340 gold. Tack on the medical fees for the 10 or so of my precious cowards you took out.
He's trying to bill him.
50,000 more gold. And finally,
he's trying to bill him.
The irritation you've cost me, we'll say fair's fair and charge you an additional 100,000. Your outstanding balance is 154,340 gold.
Which is a massive amount, almost certainly.
Make sure you feel every coin.
Over my dead body.
This is one of those cases where if somebody attacks you in the you should then at that point.
Who do you think made that gun? Who do you think cast those bullets? Those are products of prosperity, Deputy Miser.
So he controls like all the guns in the city.
Now that was just about 100 grand worth. And since you've been a sport, I'll give you a steep discount. Your balance is now 54,020. Won't be enough to kill you. Not with your mana levels, but...
So unless he gets that special bullet out...
That's enough, I see.
Well now, the big...
But I guess we now have been revealed one important fact in that Isildrad can stop guns from shooting.
If you put even a single toenail over it, we'll have to settle things the old-fashioned way.
Now, there's no sense in getting fussy over a mortal. I swear, with that look on your face, you could make a black cat cross the street backwards.
Such ridiculous.
Well, you're certainly taking this seriously.
They are at least consistently showing that there is...
I couldn't resist turning the knife a little bit.
There's mana in every world. Also,
However,
Miser's
I'm
hair
unsure, Vincent.
is like almost
Do you
pink
plan on
here.
opposing me too?
Like they used a completely different hair set on accident.
Predictable as ever.
Miser.
Sheriff, I didn't mean to.
I guess maybe it was always pink?
Hush
I
up,
don't,
deputy.
I don't know.
He put a
Feels
curse
like
on
his
me.
hair changed.
Talking will make it work faster.
I just. I'm sorry.
I'm the sorry one, Miser. I forced your hand, put you into a position above your capability. And look where that's got us.
Still not sure why
Well, I
they
guess
keep
we should be
flipping
more
the
concerned
image.
about where we're heading.
Like,
To a full-out
it would be
clash
easy enough
between
just to flip the
titans.
heads only. Or flip the eyes. That's really all you need to do, is not flip the whole image, just flip the eyes if you want them to look left or right. Or just have them always looking in one direction. I guess his hair always was pink. I just now recognized it. So one last chapter and then we're done. And maybe we saved a few
Just quit.
minutes.
If this is about money, I've got plenty of savings. Come live back at the church, where you can have some peace and quiet.
So Selena is
I can't quit
straight
now.
up asking
Not
him
after
to
I killed her. Not with this blood
to
on my
not
hands. I have
to live
make
with
up
her.
For that somehow. I have to believe penance is out there. And the way I figure, it makes more sense to stick near justice, don't it? Where else would redemption lie?
You could join the church and
The kids
become
miss
a preach.
you, and they'd love you no matter how many times you mess up. I keep telling you this.
Well, if opinions mattered when it came to sin, then this burden would be a lot lighter on my soul.
Like he could easily be a preacher or a handyman.
I'll at least continue working under the sheriff, but I'll make sure to use my power properly this time.
And this whole March of the Damned Act doesn't make you feel... I don't know... sad?
Sadder than I've ever been.
Then shed some tears at least.
Afraid I can't. They're all dried up.
It's not great to have
I'll just
this
have to cry enough for the both of
sepia
us.
tone style
Oh,
film
Selena,
grain over the
you've always been good to me.
flashbacks. Because
Penance you need.
I kind of would like to be able to see the full colors of these
Always been
characters.
together, right? Just stop making that face.
Sorry. What kind of face was I making?
Your dumbest one. Your dumbest one, Miser.
You awake, Miser?
Vincent?
Don't make any sudden movements. You don't
Just
want to
so
invoke
exhausting.
Darcy's curse.
Honestly, it's
right.
gonna take me
The curse.
an entire day's
His power,
attempt to
his very being
recording
is
to
working its way through
do
your veins now. Terrible stuff.
all these
Reclamation,
story
magic
sections.
that identifies and transfers ownership. And of course, since Icy owns all material things, it's he who decides what was taken from him. Looks like he gave himself claim to your life.
Interesting.
I know he said he wouldn't kill me.
I
but
guess the
really
idea is
feel
that
like I'd
reclamation
my
would have
last
also been a
breath.
key phrase in the cards, but
Truth be
I haven't
told,
seen any
I
any
wonder
cards
if
that
the
say
problem
that.
passed on. I got to you in the nick of time with a recovery charm. Best I could, at least.
Boy, howdy.
It's
am I
kind of
glad I got a
ridiculous
Titan to
that
watch
these
my back.
titans seem to
I could say the
literally
same.
actually, at least
I don't know
magically
too many
speaking,
folk
have
who would draw
claim
their
to
gun against Icy and
like
come out
all
on the other end
prosperity
smiling.
and all fear and all order.
So, tell me, Miser, were you pretending this entire time that you couldn't draw your gun?
Sorry, Sheriff. This mean I'm fired?
Yep, sure does.
Wait, what?
You've been half-assing it out in the field, letting these outlaws flee longer than they would have otherwise, with the occasional escape, mind you.
But...
Had you used all your facilities from the start, you might have saved even more lives. But your sense of guilt misaligned itself with your sense of duty, putting all of the citizens in danger.
You have a point.
I truly wish I didn't.
And a funny point. This is a funny point to end the story on, is to fire him.
Say if I actually intended on kicking you off my force.
Huh? How could you joke around about this?
More a lie than a joke.
No. I may be an ignorant son of a gun, but I don't like being played for a fool.
Well, would you listen to that? You finally admitted your ignorance.
Ouch.
Look, I always knew how you felt. You simply wanted to prevent others from getting hurt. So much as you could, for as long as you could.
Not a lot to say here, once again, but it's not a terrible scene, because it's at least character development, an important revelation.
But my criticism still stands. You better hold that.
Yes, sir.
Miser, not a soul on this earth would judge you for what you had to do in the line of duty.
If each of these titans were actually going to turn into like Nexus and Nerva, and turns out that they are actually gods too, or on the same level as Nexus and Nerva, then at that point we have like 5 different godlike creatures that probably need to immediately then fight each other. But then you're kind of back to the guild wars, aren't you? I don't know who would join with Nerva.
This is as Reckless does, but with the full backing of another Titan, who's to say what could shake down?
They're working with Not.
If anything, it would make more sense if the 3 titans in Nexus all decide to attack Nerva and defeat her once and for all.
Loves fear more than her own life. She'll turn Reveal into smoke and gunpowder as soon as she can.
What are we gonna do?
We won't do a thing.
Huh?
Listen, you can have a society without prosperity, and you can have one without force, but there ain't no community without order. Now, I don't crumble easily, but just suppose that I died in this stupid conflict. What do you think would happen to this city? Someone will come out on top of this tragedy, and when they do, we'll hitch their horse to our wagon. But first, we sit back and watch the race. Not prudent to break a stallion before you got them in your stable. They'll just as soon bite your fingers as the carrot. And frankly, Deputy, I don't give a damn which of them wins. So long as I'm sheriff, I'll maintain the natural order of Reveal.
Yeah, it does kind of imply that Vincent just wants power over anything else. He's willing to let Reveal fall into a war and chaos just as long as he maintains power.
You don't have that kind of capability, son.
I've still got to try, don't I? But if worst comes to worst, I might be putting a target on the department's back. You included, Sheriff. Which means, guess I'll need to give up my badge and gun anyhow.
Kid. When I took you on, I knew you could climb mountains like a goat. But I didn't think you'd be as stubborn as one. I reckon we ought to make use of that tenacity. Deputy Miser, you are hereby subject to probation. And as such, your rights and responsibilities as an officer of the law are revoked until further notice. Please set your gun and badge on my desk.
Yes, sir.
And get some new equipment before you head out.
Yes, sir.
Whatever you do from here on out is your own business. This city requires my full attention.
So they have to explain that he's turning in his gun and badge because you've seen that in TV cliches. And then you have to then hand him some other guns so he has an actual gun.
We can't be moved to act on emotion. It just so happens our lines of thinking have converged. Now giddy up and get. Go wipe the slate clean.
You bet I will. Catch you later, Sheriff.
Take care, Deputy.
Really do feel like you could have, in 3, maybe 4 chapters, told this story. You didn't need 11.
You'll find a way.
Particularly when you don't even have 11 challenges per episode. And if you just want to give more gold rewards, give more gold rewards per chapter. Like, I hardly think anybody should have been listened to if they would have complained and said that they needed 11 chapters here. Let's just jump back in here for a second and see this. And that was a very disappointing ending, as far as it just kind of went nowhere. So you got the intro that gets reused, so that's good. But then you have this story, which gives you no rewards, and I don't think is a challenge. This that gives you 50. This that gives you no rewards. This that gives you no rewards. This that gives you a card back. This that gives you no rewards. This gives you no rewards. This gives you 100. This gives you no reward. And this gives you nothing. So you're only talking 150 gold anyways. So have that prologue and then have just this many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bits of story, and that's fine. And the map doesn't inherently have to change at all, because between 4 different characters you will still be able to hit these. Let's see, how many is that? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 locations. Would have been very easy to have each of these locations be a unique area where a unique character's story occurred, and then there would just be no returning to the main story, or no returning to any place more than once. Whereas like Bunny and Baron went back to the bar and their hideout in the alley multiple times. Anyways, I guess next time we see the story of Selena in Havencraft, and then we'll see this character who seems to really not have played much of a story so far. Since she is the Portalcraft character in this story, it almost certainly is a case that whatever she reveals is going to combine the events of these stories, which is fine. I'm a little surprised that they didn't think to maybe break up Baron and Bunny and make Bunny a Bloodcraft character. But I'm, I suppose, happy that that's not the case, because we don't really need a scenario like this where each single character does have their own story. Like, it made sense for the first chapter that happened, because you needed some backstory on these characters, but they've never really been able to establish these characters quite to my liking, and so I am at this point where I feel like Orisa is childish, naive still, 11 chapters in, 11 episodes in. Erica is kind of nothing as a character. Isabel has not really grown or changed much as a character. Rowan has barely been touched on. He hasn't grown or changed much. Luna has had some growth, but she can't be the main focus of the story because she's too young, and thus she hasn't had enough growth. Urias has basically not changed at all. We never really got a great backstory for Eris and how she was working with the Keepers originally. And we've really not gotten enough backstory on Yuan. So Eris is probably the character who's grown the most and it still really doesn't seem to matter much. And Yuan has almost certainly grown the second least compared to just Uriah's. Well, anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.